Hey guys, it's Brian here. New episodes of the show return on January 7th. In the meantime, we're replaying some of the best. We talk a lot about one-day Rim2Rims, but there are plenty of folks who are chasing multi-day itineraries. And that is this gentleman's specialty. Hang around to hear him mimic a raven and tell us about a helicopter rescue that he was part of as well. One of our Facebook group experts, John Sterrett. Enjoy it. Hey there, everybody. My name is Brian Special, and this is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. If you haven't already, please check out our new Facebook group. Just search for the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show and join in on the conversation on all things Grand Canyon. Also, if you're hiking the canyon this time of year, please remember to use our Grand Canyon Shade Tracker to plan your adventure. Hiking in shade versus direct sun can be a literal lifesaver in the warmer months, and the Shade Tracker lets you see when and where you'll have shade on your route anytime of any day of the year. The Shade Tracker is completely free, and you can find it at our website, brightangeloutfitters.com. And of course, check out our Canyon-inspired day pack, the 22-liter Rim2Rim pack. Features front pockets and an insulated hydration compartment to keep things cool. It is an absolute game changer. If you're in the market for a pack, please have a look. Again, that's at brightangeloutfitters.com. At Bright Angel Outfitters, we do it all to help you hike your best hike. Well, folks, we do listen. When you write us a review on Apple Podcasts or send us a DM or an email or post in our Facebook group, rest assured that we are always paying attention. So much so that episodes of this show can be born that way. And such is the case this week. After reading a review on Apple Podcasts from Onioa30 that said this: "Can't thank you enough. Secured our lottery for late September for a 4-night backpacking trip below the rim. This podcast has become a daily routine for me as I train. Would love to hear an episode about multi-day journeys across the canyon. Thanks again for the wealth of information." Well, thank you, Onioa30, for those kind words. And today we are going to act on your suggestion. If you're in any of the Facebook groups, including our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show group, you have no doubt seen posts and comments from today's guest. His name is John Sterrett, a proud Texan who's become a powerful voice in the Grand Canyon hiking community, as he clearly spends a lot of his time passing on tips earned through his own canyon experiences, primarily as a multi-day backpacker. John has 6 Rim2Rims under his belt, including one recently that covered 6 days, and he has a lot to offer as a result of all of them, including handling the many how-tos of a multi-day Rim2Rim, such as permitting, planning, training, and finally, execution. Whether you're a multi-day or a one-day Rim2Rimmer, there's a lot to learn from John Sterrett. And hey, just wait till you hear the story of a helicopter rescue he was part of. It is gripping stuff. This is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. All right, John, you become a big voice in the Grand Canyon hiking community. You're in the Facebook groups all the time. You've got tons of great insight that comes from all of your experiences. Just to start, what is your why when it comes to the canyon? Where did this passion come from?
First of all, it's flattery. I don't have that much insight, but I do what I can, and I do care, and I want people to have a good experience down there. My passion for the canyon really came, I visited the canyon as a child probably twice on crisscrossing the country because my dad was in the Navy. He was in, and I was a Navy brat, and so he would go see the world, and we'd live on one coast or the other coast. But we hit the Grand Canyon a couple of times when I was a kid, and I thought it was really cool. They used to have signs back then of guys, gangly guys falling over the edge, and everybody would point to that sign, and there's Johnny, talking about me. So like I was most likely to fall into the canyon. But I grew up in Oregon, actually. When my dad left the Navy, I grew up in Oregon, and I was always outdoors, doing long hikes, camping out. We'd camp every year. We'd hit the Oregon coast. We'd hit the mountains, and it was just how I grew up. Go climb a mountain this Saturday. Okay, let's do it. But then in 2017, a friend of mine who had moved to Phoenix from Dallas. I've been in Dallas 20 years. And in 2017, a friend of mine who had moved to Phoenix said, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing." Now, this friend is a guy who does mudders. He does Ironmans. He's very in shape, and he's probably good 15 years younger than me. And he reached out to a couple of his friends here in Dallas and said, hey, I'm going to do this rim to rim thing. I have this permit. And I'm like, I'm not sure what that is, but let's look at it. And I looked at it and researched it. And we did a 3-day starting out the north, and we did the shuttle around to the north. And because we had Cottonwood the first day, the shuttle got there about 1 o'clock, and we got down to Cottonwood, no problem. The downhill, piece of cake, right? And great. And then the next day was Cottonwood to Havasupai Garden, Indian Garden at the time, and it just about killed me. And I said, whoa. You can't really depend on just cardio to get there. There's some training involved in this thing. And then up the interminable switchbacks of BA, I kept looking back over my shoulder at the fantastic views and where we'd been and what we did, and it just was. I fell in love with it. That's all there is to it. I just fell in love with it. It got in my psyche. I said, okay, so the canyon beat me this time. I'm going to come back and see what I can do next time.
I mean, usually you finish that first one, it beats you up, and you step out, and it's like, well, I'm never doing that again. And then those of us that get obsessed with it, it doesn't take us too long before it's like, all right, I could do this differently, I could do that differently. Let's start planning the next one. How long did it take you before you got to the I'm ready to go back?
I think it was the ride back to the airport. I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? And I'm always a postmortem guy. When a deal goes south, I figure out what I did wrong, what I can do better next time, what I can do to prepare, what I can do in the moment, and so it really started on the way back to the airport that day. I said, I'm going to do this again, and I have done rim to rim. Let me see, I've done rim to rim in 1 day with my second son. He's 6'7", has long legs. That is a lesson in find a hiking partner who you're matched with, because I was not matched with. He walks a lot faster than me. Let me see, 1 day, 3 days. This first one was 3 days, 4 days, and then I have a 6-day. When it was shut down for COVID, we were almost the only ones who kept our permit during the COVID year, during 2020. And then recently we did end of April into March, April 28th to March 3rd, we did a rim to rim, me and 5 20 to 30 somethings, some of my kids and some of the people that they grew up with, and we did a rim to rim.
So you've done everything from 1 day to 6-day rim to rims or rim to rims. What's the preferred perfect length of time to be in the canyon that you found?
You can get a permit for 1 night at each of the corridor campgrounds, if you can go from north and go to Cottonwood and then go to BA and then go to Havasupai, split the uphill into 2 days, that is the perfect itinerary. So 4 days, 3 nights in the canyon, I would do that 6 times a year. That one is so manageable. Anybody really can get in shape to do that one, except maybe in June and July. In August.
Does that really let you enjoy the canyon too? I mean, I imagine if you're just taking, it's not a short hike to get to each of those places, but like you said, manageable. But then you've got so much time to just enjoy your surroundings and the hike itself.
That's very true. And my key is I like to get up early and get the hiking out of the way and then go explore. So if we're doing the section to Cottonwood, there aren't a lot of side hikes there, but get to Cottonwood and then spend the afternoon down at Ribbon Falls. Go the extra couple of miles round trip to Ribbon Falls, spend the afternoon there, go back to Cottonwood for sleep, and then get up early the next morning, go through the box about 7:30 when the deer are running around and all the wildlife is going. I love the box. It's absolutely my favorite place. Never been through the box in the heat. I don't intend to, but it's truly, truly gorgeous down there. Get through the box and get to, and I've gotten down to Bright Angel Campground, and just drop my stuff in camp, put the food in the box, and go up Clear Creek Trail, do a little exploring up the side trails. That itinerary would give you plenty of time to do a couple of side trips.
And then you break up the toughest part of the hike, the ascent. You got to get through Devil's Corkscrew, and then you get to take a break at Havasupai Gardens before the hardest part of the ascent,
sure.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. And Devil's Corkscrew, if you hit that in the shade, I just did it in the shade in May 2nd. And really, it's not that big a deal. And I'm talking about a 35-pound pack. I've got a 35-pound pack on it, and I'm 62. I'm old. And going up Devil's Corkscrew was not onerous. I have also done it in the sun. It is the worst. It will kick my butt every time. And I would never go up the reds and whites on South Kaiba for in the sun for that reason. I know I would die. But you go up Devil's Corkscrew, and that's the only hard part. And you have this really beautiful place area below, where you're walking along the rocks and the creek up to Havasupai Garden. It's absolutely beautiful. Get there early, and you have time that afternoon then to walk out, if it's open, Plateau Point, and see the sunset. And really, you break it up, and you get to experience, and you get to sit out there and see the condors fly, and you get to see the river roaring down below you. And there's a lot of things to do if you get the hiking out of the way in the morning, and you're just camping.
I have to ask. I'm almost embarrassed to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I'm typically a one-day rim-to-rim kind of guy. I'm typically a day hiker. I'm not really into the camping. Really, I've never really been exposed to it. I don't know if I'd like it. I'm going to have to give it a shot one of these days because you're inspiring me. But in 2024, when we're all so connected, how do you go without cell service or the internet for so long? I know I sound like a teenager, but how do you manage that? Is it nice to just get away from it all?
Absolutely. I told my bosses, I started a new job about 2 years ago, and I work in technology. I work in hardware sales. I sell hardware, technology. And I told my boss, I said, now, do you want me to take my vacation time? Oh, yes, we absolutely want everyone to take all their vacation. Perfect. I'm not going to be available. And then they said, perfect. And I knew it was the right job for me. I said, because I unplug. I'm going to be in the wilderness. I'm going to be out somewhere where you cannot reach me. And they said, we prefer that. We know people come back energized. So I really try to, I unplug completely. My phone is in airplane mode from the moment I step into the canyon. I'm taking pictures with it. I'm taking video with it, but I'm not turning it on. I don't want that ping at the top of Asinine Hill. I don't want to be bothered by it. I just want to take in what my surroundings and enjoy. And I usually go with other people that I like, and I want to spend some time with them. I'll take a deck of cards and some Farkle dice, and we'll play on the picnic table and enjoy each other's company.
So we all get those emails that say, I'm going to be away from the office, and I'm going to have limited access to email, which usually doesn't mean you have limited access to email, but you have no access to email when you're in the canyon. So it's old school, baby.
My out of office, I will have zero access. You will not hear from me for a week, but I'll get back to you as soon as I get back. I'll get back to you.
Well, we do need technology in order to do the planning for itineraries like you're describing. How difficult is it to get the permits? And can you just talk about the permitting process to be able to get the overnight permits for the canyon?
Yeah, I've failed more times than I have succeeded getting a permit. Getting a permit is, it's just a numbers game. There aren't enough permits for people that want to do this. I like the new permit process. I like the lottery process. It's going to cost me $10 a try to get in, and so I might try 3 months in a row and put my $10 into the process. And if I get it, great. Then I'll plan for who can go with me. But
so they have a lottery once a month. Is that how it works?
Yeah,
and you put money in order to get into the lottery.
There's a $10 entrance fee to get into the lottery. You get into the lottery, and you have a window of a couple of weeks before the end of the month, 4 months before the month in which you want to go to the Grand Canyon. So
whereas Phantom Ranch is a year in advance, the camping permits are 4 months in advance?
Correct. 4 months and 2 weeks in advance of the month you want to go. So what are we in? We are on the last day of that lottery entry for November. Let me see. We're in June.
We're in June 30th right now.
July, August, September, October. Yes. So if you wanted to go in November, today would be the last day that you could put in for the lottery. You put in, you pay $10 to enter the lottery. You can get either the first priority or you can get second priority. I've never had luck with the second priority. You get the first priority, then you go in, and the process is pretty simple. You go in and you book the nights you want at the campgrounds you want, and then you go.
How many nights can you get out of winning one lottery?
You can get
and how many? And you can get different campgrounds.
Correct. This last time I got 5 nights, and our first night was at Bright Angel. We went down South Kaibab to Bright Angel. Second night was at Cottonwood. Third night was at Cottonwood, so that some could do the 14-mile round trip to the North Rim and back, and we'd have a place to stay at Cottonwood. Some stayed at Cottonwood and just spent the day at Ribbon Falls, but so the second night was Cottonwood. Then we had another night at Bright Angel and a night at Havasupai Garden to break the uphill into 2 days. It was absolutely perfect. 6 days hiking minimal hiking, and 5 nights and you can have up to 2 nights in a row consecutively at any one of the corridor campgrounds, or any campground. Actually, it doesn't have to be a corridor campground. There are other areas where you can camp. You can camp up Clear Creek. There's a designated area there on the Tonto. There are a number of different camping areas, but those are completely primitive. No services, no tables, picnic tables. Bring everything you're going to need. The corridor campgrounds are so easy because they're set up with a picnic table. They've got a food box there. There's usually water of some sort available, or at least, from a creek you can filter at all of those campgrounds.
So it sounds like the best thing you can do, the best mindset that you can have going into the lottery is to be diligent about entering the lottery and be flexible with your dates.
Yeah, if you want a permit, I would say enter the lottery for any month that you're not afraid of the weather. So I'm not going to enter for July or August, but I'll entered for September. I didn't get it. Entered for October. I didn't get it. I'm going to enter today for November, and if I get a permit, then I'm going. I'm just going to plan on going, and I can fill up the other spaces. You can put in a permit for 2 people, 4 people, whatever, up to 6. If you want to put in for a large group, 7 to 11, there is a large group campsite at each of the main corridor campgrounds, so you can put in for a large group if you want to. If that's available when you win the lottery, you can go in and book the large group campsite. But yeah, I'm not going to put in for December. It's going to be too cold, and I'm not going to put in for anything up till like March. But I've gone in March, and it's not horrible. There's snow on the rims, but March is a great month to go. Nobody's there.
What about if you live closer by, or you can get there at almost a moment's notice? Are there ever cancellations? Can you be that flexible where you can check for cancellations somewhere?
Yeah, my understanding. Well, you can check online, recreation.gov website. You can check for cancellations or regular availability at any time, but usually that's not the place to find it. The secret is that they keep some availability for walk-ups.
Thanks for making the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show the #1 Grand Canyon-related podcast in the world. We'll be back in January with a new season of tips, tricks, and most importantly, your stories about what it takes to have a successful hike in one of the most spectacular places in the world. In the meantime, the conversation never stops in our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Facebook group, a vibrant community of canyon crazies out to help you have your best possible experience in the canyon. The only place you'll have daily access to Brian and just about every guest you've ever heard on the show, and they're all here to help. It's totally free, so join today and enter the world of the Canyon Obsessed.
And you can go to the Backcountry Information Center and say, hey, do you have anything at, have a soup buyer? Do you have anything at Bright Angel? Or I'd like to do 3 nights. What can you do for me? And they can tell you where you can camp. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a corridor campground, but if it's your first timer, they're going to direct you to the corridor.
I assume you get this dialed in more and more as you do this more and more in these long multi-day itineraries. But how did you know, even in the beginning, what to pack, especially when it comes to food?
I packed way too much. That's what I did, and that's how I learned. My buddy got the permit, and I had no idea what to expect. And we went in. This was June 21st through 23rd, the first in 2017, first time I did this. And of course, I packed too much food. You just never know what to expect. You don't want to be hungry. And I had no idea that I was not going to want to eat a darn thing on the way uphill. And I didn't bring the right food. And I brought what I thought I needed. And first time you learn. So now I have it kind of dialed in. There's certain things that make the list every time, and every time I try a new food. You're gonna laugh at me, but this last trip, it was over 6 days, and I was going with a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds, and I brought 2 packages, family-sized packages of Oreos, and
yeah,
and I said that'll be a big hit when we get down there for the first night dinner, and but I didn't want to deal with the packaging, so I dumped them all into a big gallon Ziploc bag, and I didn't want to carry them. So my son, who never carries enough weight, I said, "Hey, put these in the top of your pack, will you?" And so we had Oreos actually through the fourth night. We had Oreos to eat at night. It was really, they were chunks of Oreos, clearly, because they got beat up, but they loved them. They thought it was really cool. So I just try something new every time. Things that absolutely make the cut every time. I want a lot of calories at night, and I don't mind taking the little teeny tiny stove and a can of gas to heat up water for those dehydrated meals, the Mountain House or whatever brand you like. I want a lot of calories, and they're all say 2 servings. No, I eat the whole dang thing. I love to have a little oatmeal, get my carbs in the morning, so I'll do that. If I'm bringing a stove anyway, I might as well have some oatmeal. It doesn't weigh very much. What makes the cut? I do peanut butter pretzels. I do the small meat sticks, little mini sausages, dried or smoked sausage, little meat sticks. Jerky, not so much, but sometimes I'll take jerky. What absolutely makes the cut is Jolly Ranchers, because on the uphills, I'm the kind of guy who would just suck on the water all the way up the hill. And then you don't need to do that and have that water sloshing around, especially if it's a hot day. It just makes you sick, makes you nauseous. So I will suck on a Jolly Rancher and then every 15 minutes force myself to drink deeply from my bladder. And that works really, really well for me. It keeps my mouth wet in between, and I know I'm hydrating myself. I put electrolyte powder in my bladder with the water, not because I need the electrolytes, because I'm doing electrolytes elsewhere, but I hate the taste of water after about 4 hours. So I want my water to be flavored, so I put electrolyte powder at half dilution, half the normal dilution in there just for flavor. And I always take salt stick.
The fast chews?
Fast chews, yeah, the fast chews.
Yeah, I love those too.
I always take the fast chews, and I eat them liberally, and they have done great for me. No cramps, no head issues, no dizziness. I mean, they're fantastic product.
I mean, do you separate out everything? Is there a way to separate out everything that you need every day, like for like a 3-day trip, or does all your food just get brought together and you try to ration it out as you go?
That's a great question. And I've learned that I don't make packets like per day, but I will put snack baggies of each of these items and each of the items that I'm going to eat. Sometimes I'll bring cheese crackers or whatever, and bring a couple snack baggies full of cheese crackers. I'll put the meat sticks in 2 different cheese crackers so that I bring a fanny pack. I look stupid, but I bring a fanny pack and I put my daytime while I'm hiking food in that fanny pack, so it's easily accessible. Don't have to take off my pack. I can just keep hiking and eat at the same time, and that works for me. But I do portion it. I portion it out. And then I put all those into a gallon baggies, and I put all of my food in one bag, so it's easy to pull out of the pack and drop into the food box when I get to the campground.
All right, it's not just food. Everyone will overpack, especially their first time in the canyon. They'll overpack on their regular gear as well. What have you found that maybe you thought that you would need, and so you brought it, no question, that just became extra weight that you didn't want? What is the first thing that someone should cut out from taking down into the canyon?
Okay, for me, in the Grand Canyon, I will never take a tent. If I'm going in the middle of winter, I might consider it, but or if I'm going in monsoon season, which is July and August, why would I go in July and August? I'm never going to do that. But for the months that I go, I never will take a tent. If a forecast says it may rain, I may take a tarp that I could put over me as a lean-to if I have to. But I will always cowboy camp in the Grand Canyon. And my secret for the cowboy camping, I have a small, very, very lightweight plastic tarp I put down. I have a really good blow-up pad, and I'm a big guy. I'm 290, and I'm a side sleeper. And I have found a pad that I blow it up to 2.5 inches, and my hips do not hit the ground on this pad. So get a really good pad. Pay 30, 40, 50, whatever you have to pay for a pad that works for you. Anyway, I put the lightweight plastic down, the pad. I spray a perimeter of DEET around it with a little can of DEET that I bring with me. And that keeps the scorpions and the ants off of you. And then I just sleep on top of that, sometimes with nothing, sometimes with a lightweight sheet. If it's really hot out, I'll bring a twin sheet, get it damp in the creek, put it over the top of me, and the evaporative cooling works really well at night. So I just cowboy camp, look up at the stars. For me, a tent is just going to lock in heat, and I want to be comfortable and cool.
And you save the weight for the hike. How heavy is your pack? You said 35 pounds?
Yeah, about 35 usually, because I bring the extra stuff that the other kids don't think about bringing.
like Oreos.
Oreos. I bring a little extra first aid. I'm bringing an ice pack. I'm bringing some extra medication that that people aren't thinking about, and I've used a lot of that. This last trip, I used the ice pack. One of the girls hurt her ankle a little bit, and we iced her ankle down, and she was fine for the next couple of days.
As the KG veteran in the group, when you're in a group like that, and you suddenly find yourself as a leader, does that put more pressure on you? You have to be more prepared for situations like that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I would let it pressure me, but having been there before, I know where to go for help. I know where the ranger stations are. I know if I'm in the corridor, I'm going to be able to find help. I do not bring a Garmin InReach. A lot of people swear by them. I don't bring one because I know I'm going to be able to find people. I'm going to be able to find help within four miles. Really, you're never more than 4 miles from help in the corridor. I don't necessarily feel pressure, but I have a lot of first aid training. I have CPR training. None of them are valid. Currently, if you want a card that has a valid date on it, I don't have that, but I'm very comfortable giving first aid. If I have to immobilize something, I do. And things have happened on these trips. This girl, twisted her ankle, but the worst one I had was my son broke his leg and had to be airlifted off the cliff just below the Supai Tunnel on North Kaibab.
I mean, what is that situation like? How does it happen? How do you get help? How long does it take? And just what's that whole experience until he's finally choppered out of there?
This was COVID year, 2020. And that year they shut down the Grand Canyon. They shut it down. They shut down the North Rim. The South Rim was still open, but they weren't allowing, people who had permits were given the option of canceling their permit and would get priority booking for the following year, a month more and a month extra in advance. So 5 months in advance instead of 4 months in advance. And so the following year is the year I did a Rim2Rim in one day because nobody was getting a permit that year. The permits were all taken from the previous year's people. And so that year when we did a one-day Rim2Rim, it was like there was so much pent-up demand. It was like a mosh pit down at Phantom. It was hundreds of people at Phantom, hundreds of people at Havasupai Garden that year. That was 2021. Wow. 2021. It was a mass of humanity. But 2020, nobody was in the canyon because of COVID. And I opted not to cancel. And it was just this huge odyssey. They weren't opening the North Rim. My permit was to go south to north. It's the first time I was going south to north. I wanted to go south to north, do a Rim2Rim. I had my daughter and my son and his wife. There were just going to be 4 of us. And we had everything set up. We had the hotel prior, the hotel after. Actually, my wife was going to pick us up on the north end. She was going to pick us up on the north side. And had the whole thing set up. And they weren't opening the North Rim, weren't announcing when they were going to open the North Rim. I actually called my congressman, had my congressman try to lean on the National Parks Committee to update the National Park website when they would open the North Rim. No, radio silence wasn't happening. Nobody was going to tell me. And finally, the 2 days before we were supposed to fly out, I finally canceled our flights and our hotels. As soon as I'd hit the button to cancel the flights and hotels, I'd get an email from Nate. He's one of the rangers out there. Great guy. Nate Powell. Great guy. He's been extremely helpful. Get a call from Nate or email from Nate Powell. Hey, John, I see you have a permit here and you're talking about canceling it. Don't cancel it. Your permit ends on the 4th. We're going to give you an extra night in Cottonwood and open on the 5th, and you can go out the North Rim. And I said, fantastic. So I rebooked the flights. I rebooked the hotels. Where it go? 2 days later, we go to the canyon. And it's just fantastic. We go down South Kaibab. We have a great time. We went down South Kaibab, across Tonto, had a night at Havasupai, had 2 nights at Bright Angel at the bottom. Unfortunately, June 1st that year, it was 119 in the shade at Bright Angel. It was crazy hot. And we spent the whole day in the creek under the bridge or on the wooden benches in the Ranger Talk area. There's this beautiful sugar maple down there with a lot of shade. So we'd get wet and then we'd go lay on the benches and take it. It just slept basically most of the day. We'd had 2 days camp hiking and it was too hot to function. Nobody was there. There were no rangers. There were no employees. There was nobody. We were by ourselves. There were 2 other people camped at Bright Angel. And by the time we got to Cottonwood, there was nobody there. So we had 2 nights at Cottonwood, really nice, comfortable. We just took over the group campground there because that's the only one with shade, and it's got a ton of shade. So it was great, very comfortable there. But we knew we were going to want to get out early. We wanted to get out before the sun hit, and so we got up in the dark to go up the north side. Now, there had been a lot of landslides that had not been fixed. They fixed the water pipeline on North Kaibab, but they hadn't fixed the trail. So the water pipeline was being held up with these big cables. I have a picture. It's amazing of us crossing this thing in the dark. And we have to maneuver around this pipe that's basically sitting in space with an inclined hill underneath it that we're scrabbling over, trying to get with our big packs. We're trying to get 35-pound packs and up and around these cables and past the pipeline and up. But we did it. We got past there, got to Manzanita, Roaring Springs, and we started to head up. Well, my son was in the least good shape of all of us, and he was going really slow. I consider myself going grandpa speed when I'm going uphill, and he was going slower than grandpa speed. So I told the girls, go on ahead, meet with my wife. Danny was at the top in a minivan. She had spent the week in St. George, Utah, and she was going to pick us up at the top. I said, go on ahead. We're just going to go really slow. It might take us all day to get to the top. Well, they had a hard enough time because they hit about 6,000 feet and recognized that, dang, this is a beast. This North Kaibab going uphill is a beast. And it took them quite a while to get up too. But they got to the top, met with my wife. Hey, they're coming. It's happening. I stayed with my son, and we went just grandpa speed, went nice and slow, and he was having issues and lost his footing a couple times, but I'm right there with him. I'm going to hang with you. We're good, son. We go around one of the switchbacks, about 2 switchbacks below the Supai Tunnel, and he steps on the wrong rock. And the trails had not been maintained, mind you, for 4 months, right? Because COVID shut down. The trails had not, we walked over so many landslides, it was crazy. But the trails had not been maintained, and there was a big, about 1 foot rock that he stepped on to step up one of the steps. And that rock twisted his ankle, and then he went down, and his tibia hit that rock. And all of his weight, from his pack and everything straight down on top of it. I had similar injury a couple of years ago, and you just go straight down. And when finally all the weight hits, you hear a crunch, and he heard the crunch.
Oh no!
And so I went over to him. I took his pack off, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "It really hurts." And I said, "So you're not probably going to be able to carry a pack." And right now I'm weighing in my head. I'm weighing all the options. Am I carrying his pack? Am I going up to the top? Am I coming back to get my pack? Am I going up to the top to get a ranger to come down and help him get out? What are we doing? And I said, okay.
So you knew it was broken right away.
Well, I examined it. He was wearing shorts, and I went with my thumbs all the way down his leg, and I got to the spot on the tibia where it was broken, and he just screamed. So I said, yeah, that's a break right there. Luckily, it wasn't his ankle.
Boy.
His ankle was movable. I could move his ankle. It was fine, and he just had the pain in the one spot. But there was no way he was putting any weight on it. He's not going to walk out. He was not going to carry a pack out. So now I'm 2 switchbacks below the Supai Tunnel, and I say, I'm not going to get cell reception here. This is where I'm thinking I should have brought an InReach, a Garmin InReach. I walked, and the switchback is probably 500 feet. It's kind of one of the longer ones. And I walked along, and I said, well, let's say a quick prayer. So I said a quick prayer in my head, walked to the edge of the cliff, pulled out my cell phone, turned it on, and I got a signal.
Oh, wow.
I got a signal, and I had Nate Powell's number in there. So first thing I did was call Nate Powell. Didn't call my wife first, right? I called Nate Powell. Said, Nate, here's the situation. Kid's got a broken leg. And he says, well, I can't do anything for you. You have to call the search and rescue number. I'm like, okay, this is my cell. Can you text me that number to this number? He says, absolutely. So he texted me the search and rescue number. I'm not moving. My feet are planted in that spot. Am I going to get a signal anywhere else? I don't know. So he texted me that number. I called the search and rescue, tell them what the situation is, and they say, okay, so tell us where you are and all what's going on. And I said, well, I've immobilized him. I put him under a tarp so the heat's not going to get to him, but he's not walking out of here on his own. And they said, okay, well, it's going to take us about 40 minutes to get to you. And I said, that's fine. I'm not going anywhere. I'll hang out with him, and because they're going to run down North Kaibab. They're going to come from the ranger station at the top, and they're going to run down North Kaibab. And they get there and they assess, and they say, yeah, you got a break here. And they put a blow-up splint on the thing. And they have one of the rangers is controlling traffic coming down from the top. The other ranger has me at the bottom controlling traffic coming up so that nobody's going to walk past there as the helicopter comes in, because the jet wash, is going to be tremendous and maybe knock somebody off their balance. the helicopter flies in this harness and then drops off a harness, and the helicopter goes out and hovers out over the canyon, while the ranger puts this harness around my son and his pack and himself, the ranger. And then they bring the helicopter back in. This is a 300-foot cable hanging off the bottom of this helicopter. Bring it in, hook it into the harness, and then they just fly him off the cliff face. They flew him on down the canyon. I'm like, why aren't you going the wrong way? What they did was they flew him down the cottonwood where they could land, put them inside the cab of the helicopter, and then fly them up to the North Rim. They flew them up to the North Rim.
So your son got to hang off of a helicopter
300 feet below a helicopter.
300 feet up below a helicopter, and got a return trip to all the way down to Cottonwood, which is still down there a ways. Holy cow!
Yeah, and then back up in the cabin to the North Rim. It was amazing, and the thought of dollars and cents hadn't even crossed my mind at this point. I just got to get my son out of here, right? Because we're 3.5 miles from the top. And now, of course, I have to hike out by myself. Well, my third call was to my wife. After search and rescue, I called my wife, told her what was going on. The girls had not made it to the top yet. And she said, I haven't seen anybody, but I went and got pizza for you. I'm like, okay, bless you. Going to need the pizza. Anyway, got him out, and now I'm hiking up by myself, but somehow I had a 2-hour rest, so now I'm pretty good. And usually above 4,300 feet, I'm dead to I'm no good for anything, but I just go to grandpa speed and 1 foot in front of the other and get out because I know I have to. But I actually made pretty good time going up there, and about half a mile from the top, my other son, the long-legged one that was there with my wife in St. George for a week, he came down, picked up my pack, and we went up the last half mile and got pizza. That was absolutely fantastic. All the kids were in the minivan. We drove down to St. George, went to an ER, an emergency room place, and what do you call it? Urgent care place. And they splinted him up and took care. It turned out to be just a hairline fracture, but it was broken and he couldn't put weight on it, so there was nothing going to happen.
So they didn't transport him to St. George. They brought him to the top, and then you guys took him to St. George.
Correct. And that was my question as I got to the top and talked to the ranger. I said, so what's this going to cost me? He says,
oh boy.
He says, if we transport you from the canyon, inside the canyon, in the national park, it's in our search and rescue budget. There is no charge. If you did not have your wife at the top in a minivan and we had to take him down to St. George, it would have been around $50,000.
The Rim2Rim Hiking Club wants you. An entire collection of unique Grand Canyon hiking apparel, including our Rim2Rim Hiking Club tees and hoodies, is available exclusively at brightangeloutfitters.com. Commemorate your bucket list adventure by wearing your love of the canyon. From a full Rim2Rim collection to more specific landmarks like Uwa Point and Devil's Corkscrew, this is where you'll find something for those who are canyon obsessed. And yes, there's even a canyon obsessed design. Find it all at brightangeloutfitters.com. Bright Angel Outfitters was born out of a love of the canyon and exists to help you hike your best hike.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, wow, okay, so second mortgage. But anyway, it was quite an experience. It was quite an experience getting him out of the canyon and seeing that helicopter. The video is amazing of him and the ranger just, swaying below on this 300-foot cable.
Unbelievable. Wow.
The things that a multi-day rim-to-rim can do for you.
Right. You got a chance to see and do a lot more.
We did.
Now, I've seen you mention before about an experience with some ravens, and I'm dying to know what this is about.
Okay, so we had 2 nights at Cottonwood. So we just went and dropped off our food and we went back to Ribbon Falls and spent most of the first day at Cottonwood at Ribbon Falls. And those who are listening that don't understand, if you have a chance to do Ribbon Falls, don't say, no, it's another mile round trip or it's another mile and a half round trip. It's gorgeous. It's breathtaking. It's an oasis that you don't want to miss. If you're only going to do Grand Canyon once and you have a chance, you're going down North Kaibab, we're up North Kaibab, go to Ribbon Falls. Now you have to ford a creek. You have to go across a creek. Years ago, there used to be a bridge. That thing has been gone and removed. About 4 years ago, they removed it. There's a place and there's supposedly a budget to get a new bridge in there, but who knows if that's ever going to happen. Just go across the creek. I carabiner flip-flops to the outside of my pack specifically so I can cross water or get into water. And you just go across the creek, and it's half a mile off the North Kaibab, and it's lovely. It's beautiful. There's a double tier waterfall. The first tier comes down about, I don't know, I'm guessing 120 feet, 150 feet, and it hits the top of this huge boulder, and the boulder is moss covered. It's probably 30, 40 feet wide, this boulder, and 40 feet high, and this moss is all over the top of it, and the falls come off of this moss in ribbons, obviously why they call this thing ribbon falls, into a beautiful pool around the bottom. And at the base of this boulder, there's a cave. People go in there and get their picture taken sitting in that cave, and it's amazing. So it's a beautiful place. And we went because it was hot. That was a hottest trip I've ever done to the Grand Canyon, was this one during COVID, the COVID shutdown. So we went there, and we were going to hang out all day, and we did. And a couple of us laid down in the pool to cool off, which was awesome. You can hike up behind this boulder. You can walk up behind the boulder and get in the shade, which we did. And then the sun went behind the cliff, and so we were just down below the boulder. And there's this raven. It's about 1 o'clock, and the shade had just kind of gone behind the cliff. And there's this raven up on the cliff to the right, about 25 feet up the cliff, and he's going. About 1:30, his call changes, and it changed to a something like that, like he's talking words, like he's saying words up there. It's not like your average raven. And I'm like, what?
They're pretty smart.
What's this guy doing? He wants us out of his pool, right? We're hanging out in his spot. He wants us out of here. Well, about 5 minutes later, this other raven comes soaring up the Grand Canyon and goes up and perches next to him on this cliff up there, and they talk to each other. They go, they're talking. And then they look at each other, and then they fly down about 12 feet in front of us. They didn't care we were there. They go to the pool, and they wade into the pool. Now, the pool, interestingly, has receded about 5 feet. It's pretty shallow. And so in the heat of the day, there's less water coming down. You know, and the water comes down more in the morning. There's less water coming off the falls. There's less water filling up this pool. The pool has receded about 4 or 5 feet from where it was before. And they waded into the water, and now they could reach the little fish that were swimming around in this pool. They're not more than 1.5 inches, 2 inches of fish, but there's a million of them. And they sit there and they chomp on these fish for about 20 minutes. They're just eating fish to beat the band. Eating fish, eating fish, eating fish. Till they get their fill, they finally look at each other and like, oh, yeah. And a guy flies off down the canyon, and our guy flies back up to his perch on the cliff, and I think he just takes a nap up there. He's saturated with fish. He called his buddy Joe. Hey, Joe, it's time to go fishing. Come up the canyon. His buddy Joe comes up, Joe Crow, and they go down, and they cleaned up. And I thought that was the most amazing thing. Ravens are super smart anyway. I mean, if you haven't read studies by the University of Washington, you got to get into those. But they're super intelligent. And this was just astounding to me. He just called his buddy Joe up to go fishing.
And because you're on a multi-day itinerary and you're taking your time and you're not in a hurry, you get to experience something like that. Which if you're on a day hike and you just want to see it and get going, do the Clark Griswold style, then you're not going to see things like that.
Yeah,
so,
another wildlife thing, if you're camping at Havasupai, the deer will wake you up every morning at 5:30 or 6 foraging. They're just foraging around, getting acorns or whatever off the ground. They don't care that you're there.
Hey, John, before we go, I think it's important that you live in Dallas.
Yes, I do.
How, as a Flatlander, how do you train? What have you found that works well for you, and how far in advance do you start, and what is it exactly that you do and have mastered in terms of figuring out how to handle the Grand Canyon as a guy who doesn't have access to that kind of elevation anywhere?
Great question. And so I'm 62 for your listeners. I'm 62. I'm an old guy. I can't depend on my physical fitness that I had when I was 30. But I did play basketball for 51 years. I kind of stopped last year. Finally, at 61, I stopped playing basketball. I'm talking full court with the young guys. I played competitively till about 61, and then I said, I'm one injury away from being done with this. But so I stopped. I have to overtrain. I know that going uphill at 4,300 feet, I'm going to hit the wall. and I'm going to have to gear down, and it's just mental toughness that's going to get me out at that point. But I also don't want to experience the blisters and the foot pain and the things I had on my first Rim2Rim. In 2017, I did my first one in 3 days, and I was sore and I was beat. And I said, that thing beat me up. The things that I'm going to do to prepare next time. So this is how I prepare as an old guy living at 500 feet elevation. I can't train for the elevation. I'm going to hit that wall. I'm going to gasp for oxygen. I'm going to have to stop and take rests and breathe just to get oxygen. But I can control my physical fitness level, my muscles, whether I'm going to have, blisters and these things. And so I've worked hard to get my footwear where I have the boot and sock combination that is going to take me miles and miles with extra weight of the pack and everything. I use darn tough socks. Other people swear by Injinji. Other people swear by different types of socks. I use the darn tough quarter high full cushion, and I've never had a blister with those things. And boots, I prefer boots because I have bad ankles, so extra support. But the workouts that I do are, I do daily walks. I add to my daily when I'm walking the dog. I do a daily walk in the morning, the 3 months prior, and I go down. I have a park about a block from my house, and in that park there are a number of park benches, and I do step ups on park benches. Now the step up also means I'm stepping down, and what that does is it gets your quads, your calves, and your hammies in the shape they need to be. The quads will get killed on the downhill from the Grand Canyon. If you go down South Kaibab too fast, you're absorbing all of the shock there with your quads, and it will kill you. So I do step ups. 1 foot up, another foot up, first foot down, second foot down. That's one step up. I get to the point where I can do a set of 20 with each foot on a park bench, and I do 5 sets of 20 with each foot. So I do 200 step ups on my morning walk. I have done, by the time I go to the Grand Canyon, over 10,000 step ups. My legs are in shape for this. In addition to that, I will do at least 10-mile training hikes with my full pack weight and poles. In Dallas, there are not many places to do a good training hike, and certainly none with elevation. I go to a parking structure. It's really boring. I put the music on my headphones and I go up and down all the ramps and all the stairs in a 6 to 8 foot parking structure for 3.5, 4 hours with full pack weight. I'll take a break in the middle, simulate a lunch, and I'll just hit the ramps and the stairs. Now the ramps remind you of the ramps in the Grand Canyon, and the stairs remind you of the stairs in the Grand Canyon. I'm not going to get the elevation, but I'm going to go up and down, up and down, up and down constantly. And I find that those two things, the step ups on the park benches and the training hikes in the parking garages, get my body where it needs to be able to do the Grand Canyon. And so I get to the top and I'm out of breath, but nothing hurts. There are no blisters. I feel great the next day. So that's my secret. That's how I do it. I'm an old guy.
How important have you found it to put in that preparation? Because you'll find a lot of people who are coming from other places, maybe they don't take it as seriously. Maybe they think, I'll just deal with it when I get there.
If I were 40, I would do 5,000 step-ups, maybe 2,000 step-ups. If I were 40, your body starts to break down. I'm 62. I've always been fairly healthy, but I'm a big guy. I've got a lot of weight I'm hauling up and down that thing. I am going to do the prep so that I don't suffer. And frankly, this last trip, I went with 20 and 30-somethings, and they all said they never expected it to be this hard. Actually, my daughter and my son went with me, have been before, so they understood. But the other 3 girls had not done this, and they said, we all wish we had worked out more. My son, who's 31, said, I knew what to expect, and I didn't work out enough, and I wish I had. So if I had a choice whether to do the prep and get it going or not do the prep, why suffer? If I have the opportunity to train for it, why am I going to suffer? Because they were hurting. And I beat them. I beat them up the. Let me see. I beat them to Phantom Ranch the 4th day, and I beat them up the Corkscrew. I've got pictures of them struggling in the sun on the Corkscrew, where I went up the Corkscrew in the shade, and I'm at the top just laughing at them because I'm not going to do that in the sun. Yeah. So with age comes a little bit of wisdom, and I'm going to work out.
Sounds like they need to aspire to get to grandpa speed, apparently. Huh?
No, I didn't beat them up from Havasupai up to the top. They all whip my butt because I get that 4,300 feet and I'm dead. I just got to stop, slow down, and they all beat me up to the top.
We joke about 62 being old. That's not old. You see people in their 70s and 80s in the canyon on every single trip. So, John, what would you say, though? You know, you're 62, 290 pounds, you're a big guy. There's somebody sitting out there right now in a flatland place in the heart of the country, anywhere, and maybe they're intimidated about the prospect of hiking the canyon, not just for the physical part of it, but for the logistics side of it as well. I mean, it takes a lot to book a trip like this. But what do you say to someone who's sitting on the fence right now and thinking, well, I don't know if I want to go through all the trouble to do this hike, and can I even do this hike? What do you say to inspire someone to get off the couch?
Yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I had good cardio health my whole life, and I don't smoke, I don't drink. I've been pretty good health, generally health. But if I can do it, anybody can do it. But don't go in it half-assed. Just seriously, don't underestimate this canyon. The canyon kills people every year, and it's people, some rarely, but sometimes it's people who have prepared, who are trained. Rarely. Usually it's the people who haven't, who underestimate it, who go in saying, oh, yeah, my physical fitness is this. No, your physical fitness is not canyon physical fitness. But to somebody who's out there who's 60 years old says, I've always wanted to, I say, do it. Do it, do it, do it. Get to the canyon. If you can't get a permit, get to the canyon and hike down to Havasupai and back. But train before you do, because the uphill is going to kick your butt.
And then become a part of the Canyon Obsessed.
Yeah, we are, aren't we? I will never not go if I have an opportunity. Yeah. And as I say, I put in for a permit 6 months out of the year. If I get one, great. If I don't, there's always next year. I try to do something every other year with my adult kids that gets us out into nature and unplugged, and so that we can enjoy each other's company. This is what life's about. Life is not my 9 to 5, 5 days a week. It's not putting, money in the bank and food on the table. My life is to be lived with my family.
That was John Sterrett. He is a big part of our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group, so please make sure you go join and be a part of the conversation. And we are very grateful for John's time today. Hey, Coach Arnie, our resident exercise physiologist and canyon vet, is back with another training tip now. And this time, Coach is going a little deeper into a topic John and I just discussed: training for flatlanders.
A question which comes up more than you would think about flatlander training. So what does that mean, flatlander training? Well, a lot of people come from areas of the country that don't have a lot of mountains. I mean, they're not lucky enough like me here in Arizona to be surrounded with some amazing mountains, or other places in the West. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, first of all, let's address this, and I'm going to go through a list here. So you're going to have to pay attention or re-listen to it. But the first thing is you got to get creative. You got to get creative. And then it maybe even before that, you got to get healthy. You got to get healthy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at what you want to do. What's your adventure that you want to do at the canyon? And we're going to break down the specific skills that you need to get better at. What do you need to get better at to do what you want to do? Whether it's going to Uha Point, going to Phantom Ranch, or going all the way across, or going all the way across and all the way back, or whatever you want to do, go down and camp. It doesn't matter. You're in the canyon, okay? So we've got to break down what you need. This is where strength becomes your friend, which is why I'm a big advocate as a strength athlete of building strength. It is so important, especially as we get older, and getting older and combine that with doing the Grand Canyon. You better be doing your strength program, okay? I'm just telling you, it's a big thing. Even more of a big thing if you don't have mountains or elevation to train on. So here's some key areas that you really need to address. Your anterior tibialis. That's the muscle that runs along the front part of your leg to the center, to the outside, goes underneath your foot. You got to work those feet. We've been talking about the feet. You got to work the feet, the big toe. So important, so important. The hip flexors, You know, when you lift your knee up, that crease there along the top of your hip there, those hip flexors have got to be trained. You've got to work those hip flexors. And then the hamstrings, that's the big muscle behind your knee. It runs up to your hip, into your buttocks. Those are so important. Now, there's all kind of other muscles, but those right there, those 4 areas will help you, if you're a flatlander, to become better. You will become better. How can we do that? Well, there's a number of ways. We could do some sled pulling. I'm a big fan of sled pulling. A lot of gyms now have this. So you can pull sleds. You can push sleds. You can push and pull your way to a really good canyon adventure. You can also do what I call car pushing. By pushing on a car forward and backwards, you can really build some good strength in your body that can help you to bypass a lot of that vertical stuff that you don't have access to. And then, of course, the old reliable stair climbing, which a lot of people still love to do. But if you choose to do stair climbing because that's just what you want to do, and it's worked for you, take my advice, please. Work in some chaos because you're only one session away from some tendonitis in those knees or wherever, because stairs provide a very robotic training environment, which means those stairs don't change. So you got to bounce around a little bit, change it up a little bit, change your step count up a little bit, be a little more chaotic, be a little more creative, and I promise you that will help make this the stair climbing a little bit better for you. All right, now I know that's a little longer for a tip, but flatlander training is a whole topic in itself, but I think that'll help any of you out there that are struggling to know, what can I do to get started on my Grand Canyon venture? And as usual, if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you and share some more advice with you. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.
Coach Arnie's contact information is in the show notes. If you need help, call him, text him, message him. He is there to assist. That is Coach Arnie, Arnie Fonseca Jr. The Rim2Rim pack is available right now with free shipping at brightangeloutfitters.com. It was designed based on my own experiences below the rim. If you've never tried a pack with front pockets and an insulated pocket, you will never want to go back. The front pockets let you keep on moving because you don't have to stop to take your pack off whenever you need something, and the insulated pocket keeps your water and snacks cool for a long, long time, even in the heat. The 22-liter unisex Rim2Rim pack, running vest features, and a full-size day pack. Check it out at brightangeloutfitters.com. Bright Angel Outfitters is the company founded by my wife Zena and I, and we exist to help you hike your best hike, and we're very, very grateful for your support. Okay, that's it for now. My name is Brian Special, encouraging you as always to go hike the canyon. Take that first step, embrace the journey, and when you get there, whether it's for time goals or taking your time, just hike your own hike and savor every step in the magnificent Grand Canyon. We'll see you next time on the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters.